How much do residents in US make? Is it a life of luxury, or are you barely making ends meet? Should you contribute to a 403b? What even is a 403b? What can you afford to pay in rent? Are any of these questions sounding familiar? Then you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to be talking all about finances in residency as a IMG. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Saloni Kapoor. I am a final year resident at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and I am an international medical graduate from All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. The way I have set up this video is to first give you an idea of what salary to expect pre-tax. Then we will give you some tools to identify how much taxes you will likely owe. After that, we will go over a sample budget, which is basically my budget as a PGY1. And lastly, I will end with some tips for new residents on how to set up your finances when you move to the US. Let's get started with what salary you can expect to make. Your salary will depend on the institution and the location of the institution, whether that location is in a high cost of living area or a low cost of living area. This is 2024 data from AAMC. So this is very recent data. Your salary also gets adjusted for inflation. So looking at recent data is important. So when you look at the PGY1, which is the first year, the mean salary is quoted at 66,712. For the range, it is quoting a range between 61,000 to 70,000 for the 25th and 75th percentile. For the purposes of this calculation, let's assume that your salary will be 67,000. One thing to note with this data is that the salary keeps increasing every year as you progress in your training. So if you are a PGY 8, which some people are, you will go up to 90,000 average. Now let's calculate what your estimated taxes will be. So using a number of 67,000, your marginal tax rate will be 22%, but this doesn't mean that you will be taxed at 22%. The US tax system is stacked, so your effective rate will only be 9.8%. So you will owe 6,500 in federal taxes. Now federal taxes are equivalent of central government taxes. So this goes to the United States. Now you also have to pay a tax called FICA, which includes Social Security and Medicare. Now this is a set rate and it's a 7.65% rate, which in our example comes out to be about $5,000. The next variable rate is the state tax rate. This will depend on which state you are doing your residency in. I am using an example of 3.07% because this is the tax rate in my state, which is Pennsylvania. A simple Google search can tell you what the tax rate will be for the state that you are planning to do your residency in. So I would recommend plugging that number in here. For the purposes of our calculation, it's giving us a rate of $2,000. Lastly, you have to pay city taxes, which is local tax. Now this will again depend on your city. For me, living in Pittsburgh, I'm still considered a non-resident for city tax purposes. You will have to read some information about how your city defines a resident versus non-resident. So for me, the tax rate for city is 1%. That gives us another $670 taken away. That gives us a total of $14,434,000 that are taken away for taxes, which leaves us with an in-hand salary of $52,566. This is for the entire year. So your monthly take home becomes for 4,380. Now, the next thing I highly recommend doing with your money is starting to invest in your retirement. I know what you're thinking, this is too early, you don't need to do that right now, but trust me, you'll thank me later. There are two reasons for it. One, time in the market beats timing the market. If you start investing in your retirement account now, then you have almost 30 years of compound interest behind you to allow it to grow. But the more important thing is that investing in your retirement account allows you to save on taxes throughout your life. So there are tax advantaged accounts that you can invest in. The first one that I highly recommend investing in is the 403B account. Now 403B is an account that is given by most employers, and it is a retirement account. You can invest either pre-tax money on it or post-tax money on it. If you invest pre-tax money, then you avoid paying taxes right now. But when you take out that money with its capital gains, you pay taxes later. Okay? Now the post-tax is also known as the Roth account, where you say, I am going to pay my taxes right now, but no tax when I take it out at retirement. That allows even your capital gain to not be taxed at that point, which is great. The reason it's great is right now you are making the lowest salary you will make in your trajectory as a doctor in US. So right now your salary is at the lowest, so you will have the lowest tax bracket. When you become an attending, your tax bracket goes up higher, so you will pay more taxes. That is why it is advantageous to invest post-tax money right now into a Roth account. The other advantage of this account is the employer match part. So the employer match, how that works, it is an incentive for you to invest in your retirement from the employer. They say if you invest 4% of your salary into your 403B account, then we will give you an additional 2% into that same account. This 2% is not taken from your salary, it is coming additionally. So it's basically free money. If you are not doing this employer match, then you're losing out on the free money. In my opinion, there is very little reason to not be doing this. This is increasing your income, and this is money that you are going to use down the line with capital gains. This brings me to the second investment account that I recommend. This is called a Roth IRA. An IRA stands for an individual retirement account. So this will not be provided by your employer. You have to open it yourself in any investment firm. I have mine through Fidelity. You can use anyone. You can use Vanguard. What it does is also allow you to contribute more post-tax money that can grow tax-free for your retirement. This has a limit of $7,000. If you have the space in your budget, then it is good to do this too. Now I understand that some people will have matched in cities like New York City, where the cost of living is so high that it is impossible to put $7,000 away every year, which is okay. But I'm saying if you can, you should do it. You should put this money into an index fund, especially a low cost index fund. In your employer account, the 403B, you can also put it in a target retirement account. There are lots of resources to discuss which funds you should invest in. I'll put those in the description below. Now let's talk about what you have left over. So if you have made the investments that I recommended, you are left with in hand 3.5 thousand. There is a rule of budgeting called the 50-30-20 rule. What it says is that 50% of your salary should go towards needs, 30% should go towards wants, and 20% you save. You have actually already taken care of this 20% saving by doing what I recommended earlier in a tax advantaged manner. So now your 3,500 can be split in your needs and wants. This 50-30 split is honestly very variable because it depends on the cost of living in the area that you're at. So this is only to be used as a general guideline. In this example, this is my example, I allocated about $2,000 to my needs. So I was able to pay a rent of $1,500, the utilities of $100. Utilities are things like electricity bill, water bill. Usually you'll pay $100-$200 for those things. And then a phone bill, which for me was $50. If you have leased a car, then you have to also include your car payments in this fixed expense. So you'll have to make adjustments to bring it up to 50% of your total income. Now I am including groceries as a variable expense, but over some time you will realize how much you spend on groceries, and then you can start accounting for that too. For me, I was spending about $1,000 on groceries and fun stuff. This was basically my credit card monthly bill. That in the end left me with a saving of $500 every month, which I could choose to make into an emergency fund, invest, plan a vacation, send home, whatever I wanted. This was my breakdown. In summary, the salary of a resident is not super high, but it's definitely enough to allow one person to live a comfortable life depending on the standards of the city. If you are supporting someone else and a family on a resident salary, then it becomes more tricky. Then you are basically giving up on your retirement savings, and you are cut down on the rent, on your fund spending, on your savings, all of that just to support. And that's okay. Your situation will be your very own personal situation. This is just to give you an estimate and a tool to use to calculate and plan your budget out. Next, we are going to talk about my recommendations if you are starting out in residency and are setting things up for yourself. You know, one of the things I have realized is that the more things that I have automated, the more it happens and it goes out of my mental space. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So when you move to US, the first thing you want to get is a social security number. This is the number that will be used to track all your financial information by the government and track your taxes and your bank account, all of that. Once you have a social security number, you can go to a bank and ask them to open your regular checking account. This is the account that your salary will be deposited in. You will set that up such that your salary gets deposited in this account. Next thing you want to do as soon as possible is get a credit card. Now, even if you want to spend money through a debit card, it is better to spend it through a credit card for two reasons. One, credit score is very important in US. Credit score is sort of a tracking of how much is your credit worthiness. So when a bank gives you a loan, the interest rate they charge you will depend on your credit score. And one of the major factors that influence a credit score is how long you have held credit for. So getting a credit card early on is a very good way to start building your credit score. And two, once you have some credit scores, you can qualify for better credit cards that give you cash back or give you refunds in travel bookings, things like that. In the beginning, it's hard to get a credit card because you have no credit score. But one of the companies that was recommended to me and I recommended to all of my friends is Discover, because they give you a credit card without having much credit history. The next thing you want to do is set that credit card on auto pay, because you never want to use the credit card to its limit such that it starts charging you a percentage. that's just money lost. It's a high interest loan from the bank. You do not want to do that, and you don't want the mental burden of clicking to pay your credit card bill every month, so you just set it on auto pay. It's very easy to do that. When you start your orientation for residency, they will give you a brochure and it will have a lot of dense information on, you can sign up for this, that, set up this, that. I'll tell you the important things that you have to actually decide. The first thing is health insurance. Your employer is supposed to offer you some sort of health insurance. Usually they will have a couple of options for you. One will be sort of an option where you pay less upfront, but then as you utilize healthcare, your payments are more. The other option will be where you pay a little bit more upfront, and then when you utilize healthcare, your expenses will be less. This is up to you. Both are great options. It really depends on personal situation and risk averseness. If you're someone who's very risk averse, you can pay upfront for the better plan with the understanding that you will pay less if you do need healthcare. If you're someone who thinks they're very healthy and don't need healthcare that much, you can start off with a lower plan, evaluate your expenses and see if it makes sense to switch to the higher cost plan next year. You're allowed to change it every year, but you definitely want to sign up for that. Now, next thing you want to do is the 403 contribution. This is something I discussed earlier. At least contribute enough to get your full employer match. Otherwise, you are leaving money on the table. After you have done all of this, you will have a rough idea of sort of the budget that you're looking at, and that will give you a rough idea of how much rent you are okay paying. If you've already decided on a place, great, and hopefully that falls within your rent budget, but you can do this even before you start looking, and that gives you an idea of what places to look at. In the beginning, I would recommend getting a used car or cheap car. Cars are a depreciating asset, so you don't want to invest a lot of money in them upfront. You want to get a slightly used car because that reduces its value significantly, and go for cars that you think will last you a long time without needing much maintenance cost. This is not the time to buy a fancy car. That comes later when you're intending. And same thing with furniture. There is no need to get a $5,000 couch when you move to your new apartment. The used couch from a Goodwill store or from someone in your apartment complex or on Facebook Marketplace will do just fine until you have set everything else up. And then once you have thought about it and really decided that you like a couch, you're allowed to upgrade it in a few years. But just get started with the easiest and lowest value stuff in the beginning. In the description for this video, I will place the link for the AAMC data so you can figure out what your salary will be based on the location that you're going. I will also put a link to a calculator so that you can calculate the taxes for your state and your city. Additionally, I recommend reading The White Coat Investor at some point in your residency. You don't have to do it right at the start, but it has some great tips for personal finance. That's all I got for you. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.